Hello everyone, welcome to Arizona Billwatch for another lively discussion of important and controversial bills. I am your host, Jose Borrajero. Thank you for watching. There is a lot going on at the Capitol these days, so stay tuned because we have a fantastic show for you today. But before we do that, some housekeeping items. Number one, we would love for you to watch the whole show from beginning to end. However, you may also fast forward to the bills of your choice by using the handy chart that we have placed down below. Secondly, if you like what you see, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Third, it costs money to do what we do. So if you like what you see, you may contribute by going to our website, azpeopleslobbyist.com. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the first bill. House Bill HB 2177, short title, Jury Parental Rights Termination. This bill will be in the Senate Appropriations Committee on the 26th, introduced by Representative Payne. And it has to do with a parent having the option of being going to a jury trial when there's question as to termination of his or her parental rights. The reason why this bill is in the Senate Appropriations, even though it already passed the Judiciary Committee, is because there's some money involved in it. In other words, it would require an expense by the state or the counties, so it has to go through the Appropriations Committee. And so this is a good opportunity to mention to people that any time that the bill requires appropriation expense, in addition to going through a regular committee, has to go through the Appropriations Committee, and that's why we're here. But our mission here is to evaluate the worth of the bill, and the question is this an important enough issue to warrant the additional expense and the additional time that it takes to do a jury trial? What do you think about that, Archie?
Well, a termination of a parent's rights to the control, education, and development of their children is a quasi-criminal statute. And when you have a quasi-criminal statute, then you should always have the right to a jury trial. So I think that this is probably a good bill. However, Section 2 is probably a little bit over the top. The courts will be recording. If you have a jury trial or even a court trial, they're going to be recording this anyway. So I don't know that recording it and reporting on this is necessary, particularly the way that this is framed, and that it's for each individual. So you know, if all of a sudden I should be down before the judge and having my rights to my children terminated, then my specific case would then be specifically recorded, and I don't think that's appropriate.
All right, so other than that, you like it?
Other than that, I think it's a good bill because it's quasi-criminal.
How about you, Gloria? What do you think?
I agree with what Archie said. As you said, everybody, I guess, should be given the opportunity to have work on children.
Under these circumstances,
Right.
This is such a drastic measure, which we even have a parental bill of rights within our revised statutes. So it's that important. So if you're going to take away somebody's parental rights, I think that they should have every opportunity to fight it.
Right.
And it's well worth the extra money.
Right.
So I think we all agree that this is a good bill.
Yes.
And you folks, if you're likely to contact legislators, make sure you contact them and express, our suggestion that you say yes. House Bill HB 2570, short title, Planning Home Design Restrictions Prohibition. This bill is quite controversial, and even though it was passed by both chambers, it was eventually vetoed by Hobbs, and so they're still talking about it. The news people are still talking about it. Politicians are still talking about it. What it was initially, the whole idea behind this bill was to provide an environment in which there could be a more or higher number of available affordable housing, because we have a housing crunch in Arizona now, especially in Maricopa County. But then the cities did not like the idea of being prohibited from having certain restrictions or whatnot. So there was a big controversy, and we're still having that controversy. So I figure we'll chime in on it. My whole idea on this was that whether you like the bill or not, it would not be very effective. And the reason why it wouldn't be very effective is that if you're talking about the price of housing or the availability of housing, there's two components. This bill would have addressed the supply component by putting certain prohibiting certain restrictions from the cities and counties. Presumably, there will be more housing available because it will be easier to build. However, if you do not also decrease the demand, if the demand continues to increase, you're not going to have an effect. The best you can hope is that it won't get any better. The best you can hope is that it won't get any worse. But you're certainly not going to improve anything. So this is a rare occasion where I think we agreed on the veto, but Archie, what do you think about that?
Well, this is a high-density dwelling unit bill, and it deals with maximum and minimum lot sizes. And they're talking about a 1,500 square foot lot size. Under the best of circumstances, with a 1,500 square foot lot size with the offsets that they have prescribed, 5 foot on either side and 10 foot each on the front and the back, if you take all of those off a 1,500 square foot size, then you've only got 600 buildable spaces, feet of space to build on. And then by the time you consider that the side walls are 6 inches each, then you're going to have something less than 550 square feet in the unit. And that has nothing to do with the cost of the building. The cost of the building, what is it? A sheet of plywood, the last time that we had something with that, with the COVID thing,
quite
a
expensive.
4 by 8 sheet of plywood was going for $40. This has nothing to do with whether or not you're getting down to the point where somebody can afford to buy a house.
And my objection goes a little bit farther than that, because I don't like the idea of the state government coming in and dictating to the cities what to do in terms of housing density. I think Scottsdale has every right to do whatever they want with their land,
Right.
and so does Gilbert, and so does Tempe. And if they want to have restrictions, that's fine. If they don't want, whatever the
If they
restrictions.
don't want restrictions, that's fine
right.
too.
That's fine too. There is no compelling reason for the state to do this. And the given reason that it is to provide additional affordable housing, one of the reasons we have a crunch in affordable housing is that we have too many illegal aliens.
And legislation isn't going to fix the problem.
Yeah, so.
That's just the bottom line on that.
Well, then you had the other thing too, and that is that, that this is not really necessarily totally designed or directed towards affordable housing for starter homes, as it's referred to in an amendment, that this is a starter home bill, but it really has to do with providing a place for the homeless. Now,
That's
understand
right.
that homeless people
Yep.
at one point in time had a home and they left it.
Yep.
So just because you're going to provide a place that they can live, don't mean they're going to live there.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I think that we're all in agreement that this was a bad bill, and that the governor was justified in vetoing it.
Correct. I agree.
House Bill HB 2835. Short title, Observing Nude Minor Sexual Gratification. This bill would be heard in the Senate Judiciary Committee on the 21st, introduced by Representative whose name I can never pronounce correctly.
Is
I
that
think
Nguyen?
I think you pronounce it Kwan.
Oh.
Very basically what this bill does, it doesn't do more than just add one more item to the list of what constitutes sexual exploitation of a minor. And I think we have a pretty good list of what constitutes exploitation, so we don't need another item, I don't think. It's okay, I'm not opposed to it, but...
To be honest with you, this was just unnecessary in my opinion. Observing a nude minor for the purpose of engaging in sexual conduct for the person's sexual gratification. This is as if you're trying to read somebody's mind. And if you don't like somebody, let's just say you're at a doctor's office, and for some reason the parent don't like the way that the doctor is treating the child. Well, then they can start, this is something that would apply. So this was unnecessary. Personally, I'm against this bill. Has nothing to do, I know some of the comments were about pedophilia and stuff, and it has nothing to do with that. This
Right.
is just reading somebody's mind.
Yeah. So I am neutral on this. You don't like it.
No.
Archie? What?
I'm ambivalent about it.
Okay, so
It's
we are...
going to be, look, when you start trying to prove my state of mind as to
Right.
why I'm doing something, it's going to be extremely difficult to prove.
Yeah, we go back to what happens if somebody violates this bill. How do you prove? How do you prove? How do you determine that the person has violated the statute that this would create?
Right.
Or
and
rather,
this,
yeah.
And this can just be a whole lot of nothing, but just disrupt somebody's life, ruin somebody's life because somebody said something.
Well, are you observing this, on some kind of a podcast or the television program? Or are you observing live in person?
Right.
Okay. Because
So-
it's not clear, yeah.
I am neutral on this. Archie, you're neutral. Gloria, you don't like
I
it.
don't
so
like it.
That's the way it is, folks. House Bill HCR 2049. Short title, Ballot Measures Challenges. And this bill is going to be heard in the Senate Transportation, Technology, and Missing Children Committee on the, it has not been heard. Let me explain what's going on with this bill because it's a little bit out of the ordinary. This bill did pass in the past. However, it was at one point two other bills were killed, and those two bills were combined into one strike everything amendment. And for folks who don't know what a strike everything amendment is, this is a situation where one bill that perhaps was not doing so well, the owner of the bill or decides or allows that bill to be stricken with a strike everything amendment. And a strike everything amendment is exactly what it means. It strikes everything. Other than the title.
Except for the case number,
Yes.
Yeah.
or the bill number.
Other than the bill number, from that point on, everything else is different. So normally what happens is when you have a situation like this bill, for example, that says HCR 2049 and it refers to ballot measures, etc., well, normally it would be published with another line that says now, and then the new title to reflect the fact that it was stricken by a strike all amendment. This bill is not showing that at the website, which leads me to believe that maybe they don't want people to know that it's going on. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. Either that or it would have a statement that says CE, and then the new title. CE meaning, SE, meaning strike everything. And again, this bill does not show that when you go to the website. So I don't like the fact that it is being a little bit sneaky. However, the purpose of the action is something that I approve of. So getting back to the meat of the bill itself, there were two bills. One was SB 1010, and the other one was HCR 2018. Both of these bills dealt with a prohibition prohibiting the local or county governments from imposing a tax on travel. In other words, they would not allow to check your mileage or track your mileage on your vehicle and then tax you accordingly, or to prohibit you from doing some of the traveling. That is an extremely good idea in my view, all right? However, the objections that were raised were that, at least one major objection was that if this bill is enforced as it, by the letter, it means that a local government would not be able to track their own vehicles. And I guess the local government should have the ability to track its own vehicles.
And employers.
And employees. Oh, yeah, and employers would not be able to track their employees' vehicle for the purpose of reimbursement and so on. So what this new language means is that we have the exact same language from before, except that now we have an additional line that says except for, and then it allows for governments to track their own vehicles and for other entities to track their own employees for the purpose of reimbursement of mileage and so on. So I had to have a long explanation as to what's going on here and why I am in favor of it. And so, Gloria, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that too, because I don't agree with the government being able to track our mileage and keep track of what we're doing. But I think the government or an employer, if you're reimbursing for somebody's travel, then you have every right to know what you're reimbursing.
Right. So, Archie, what's your take?
Well, this is an amendment to the Constitution, and as it's
Which
written...
I don't like.
Okay, wait a second, folks. We're not discussing the amendment to the Constitution. We all are in agreement that we should not be amending the Constitution. We're not gonna change that now. We're only talking about since it is legal, not proper, but legal, to amend the Constitution by a vote of the people. And since the legislature has the ability to put this on the ballot, what we're discussing here is the merit of the bill. We all agree that we don't like amending the Constitution in this manner. That's a gone conclusion. We all agree on that.
And I'm going to say this real quick. With you saying that, so because they did do a strike all, so the HCR 2049, it would still go as an amendment to the
yes.
And that is what I am opposed to, because, and I forgot about that, bringing that, this has nothing to do, this shouldn't be a part of the Constitution. And so I am totally opposed. If they were going to do this type of a bill, they should have just done a separate bill and not included this. So I'm against this for that reason only.
Yeah, no, I'm against doing it that way, but since that's the way it's either that way or no way at all, I'm still in favor of it because this is an important issue.
Okay, Archie. And I'm sorry for interrupting you.
As it's written, I'm against it.
Say again?
I said, as it's written, I'm against it.
Okay, so you're against it, I'm in favor of it.
2 against and 1 for.
House Bill HCR 2058, short title, Legislative Districts, Population Census, Citizenship. This bill is going to be heard in the Senate Appropriations Committee on the 26th of this month. introduced by Representative Heap. And this is actually a kind of a simple bill, but it has some important ramifications in it, because what it intends to do is to be able to know who is a citizen and who's not a citizen, for determining who can vote and so on. And we already know that you don't need to be a U.S. citizen, or at least proof that you're a U.S. citizen, to vote in a federal election. So that would apply only to the state and local elections. So it would be a census which apparently, if I read the bill correctly, will be in addition to the regular census that the federal government does. And even though I like the idea of knowing this information, I'm not so sure that that this is a good idea to have an additional census. What do you think, Gloria?
I don't think it needs to be. And
Yeah.
so, no, I'm not for this.
Archie, is there any good in this bill?
Not much.
That's,
I don't know why the legislature should, at this point in time, want to have the people of Arizona have to pay for their own separate taking of a census of the people in the state of Arizona. The question of whether or not they are or not a citizen is already addressed in other pieces of legislation or statutes, so that does nothing. Now, there is one provision in it, and I don't know if this is true or not, that says in Article 3, it says, the legislature finds and declares that the 2020 federal census undercounted the population, depriving the state of an additional seat in the United States House of Representatives. Now, if that's the case, then that would be a valid reason for doing it once, but they want to do it every 10 years. Now, if there's a problem with making sure that the districts are of equal, population, instead of changing, the boundaries of the individual districts, why not just keep the population of each district and make additional districts? So instead of having 30, you go to 31 or 32 or whatever. So now, maybe the concept as it relates to, if we have undercounted population from the standpoint of getting another seat in the House of Representatives in Congress, then that's a valid reason to do it, I suppose. But that's the only reason I see to do it.
But overall, this is not something that you would support.
No.
no.
So we're in agreement here. None of us like this bill. Senate Bill SB 1313, short title, DCS, Discharge Home Care Housing. That's the Department of Child Services, or excuse me, the Department of Child Safety. That's what DCS stands for. This bill would be heard in the House Health and Human Services Committee on the this was done on the 21st. Regardless, what this bill does is that it requires that by January 1st, 2026, the Department of Child Safety to develop, implement, and submit a report on policies, procedures to ensure, and this is the key here, to ensure safe and secure housing for children who leave DCS care. What's been happening is, and all throughout the year, we have been having hearings on what has been happening with the Department of Child Safety, and apparently they have not been doing a very good job. So there's at least 2 or 3, probably about 4 pieces of legislation going through the legislature now, trying to address those issues. And this is one of them, making sure that when they're released from DCS care, that they have a proper place to go. And on the basis of that, I like this bill, but I would like to know what you guys think.
I'm in favor of this bill. I'd like to know why it's taking so long for them to require something to be adopted, policies to be adopted or presented. But other than that, I like this bill because I do think that we need to know where the kids are going.
Well, not only to know it, but to also to make sure that they're going to a place where not going to be abused and so
Right.
on. Archie?
Well, to me, the problem with this bill is that I really don't think this bill is necessary. We already have the laws in place telling us what the Department of Children's Services' responsibility is towards a minor. Earlier in this session, we covered a thing about a parent's right to a jury trial if the child is taken away. If the child is taken away from the parents, it goes to the Department of Children's Services. So they took it away from the parent because the parent wasn't caring. Now we got the Department of Children's Services that's not taking care of it, and nobody has any right to enforce anything against the Department of Children's Services. So it's not a matter of we need to explain to the Department of Children's Services again what their duties are. We just need some provision in this bill saying the Arizona State Attorney General will enforce this against the Department of Children's Services, and make it mandatory that the Attorney General's office enforce it.
Well, I read a little differently. I read it that it's not the intention, it was never the intention that the child would be under the care of the DCS forever and ever. That the child would be the idea is to have the child placed someplace where presumably there's a reasonable chance that he would be in a good environment. And what this bill does is that it makes it mandatory that would happen before they release the child.
If you start trying to adopt a child, you are investigated from the time you were born to the current date to see if you're a fit person to adopt.
Okay.
And that's not any different than what this is.
All right. So then your objection is that
It just needs to be enforced.
Yeah.
Well, and that was what my thought was with you saying that. So if they don't enforce it, what's the punishment?
None.
None. Which seems to be the...
Yeah, right. We have had that problem with a lot of bills.
Yes.
A lot of our statutes, they're very good, except that anybody can break them.
Yeah, what happens?
Yeah, there is no enforcement in them.
Read the very last section, too. The legislature intends that all youth have the right to safe, secure housing and after leaving the care of the Department of Children's Services.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Okay. Well, what about while they're with the Department of
What
Children's
about
Services?
mm-hmm.
I mean, okay. So
I agree with that.
put some provision in there to enforce the bill.
All right. So
what would you say on this?
As it's written, I don't see any reason for it, so I'm against it.
So you're against it. Okay.
I'm for it.
I'll go for it.
This brings to an end this week's edition of Arizona Bill Watch. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure you tell your friends, relatives, and anyone else you know. And make sure you tune in next week for another fantastic edition of Arizona Bill Watch.